Hi, this is Caroline from LISC. How are you?
Hello, sorry, I was speaking with a colleague.
Oh, no worries. I just wanted to make sure my audio worked because I'm calling in from my phone.
Yep, you're very clear. We can hear you.
Awesome. Thanks.
Before we get started, I just want to make sure everyone is able to see the presentation and also that everyone has the correct presenting abilities if needed.
I don't think I'm able to share screen right now. This is Eli, sorry.
Okay, let me see. Okay, I'm gonna elevate you to co-host. Leslie, do you have a presentation that you have with you?
Yeah, Eli's going to show our presentation. I'm just
Yep.
speaking.
Okay, no problem. And you all are able to see the presentation on the screen, right?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, we'll wait a couple more minutes. Malcolm, do you need the ability to present anything, or?
No, you guys have my slides, so
Okay.
yeah, we'll just walk through them. Mine are simple.
Hey, just before we get formally going, James, you're gonna have to switch your display settings. We're seeing the presenter slides.
Oh, okay. Let me see. Okay. Thank you. Great, I'm just gonna stop sharing that.
Oh, there we go. Wow, how y'all get Chris Parker on here?
How we doing, my friend?
Doing well. Just thought I'd throw it out.
Yeah. A little cheap shot this afternoon, huh? Good to see you, sir.
Good.
Ernest, does that look right now?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, thank you. All right, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the February 18th Austin Invest Southwest Community Roundtable. I'm a new face. My name is James Harris. I'm a coordinating planner here with DPD, leading the West Region. I'm joined by Ernest Bellamy, who is also a West Region planner. I'm sure a lot of you all are familiar with Ernest. So I'm just gonna walk through the agenda. We have 3 speakers on today's agenda. First, we're gonna be joined by Claudette Baker, who will walk us through some results from our recent roundtable surveys. We will then be joined by Leslie Roth with CDOT, who will provide an update on the Chicago Avenue project. And then finally, we'll hear from Malcolm Crawford to provide a corridor manager update. For those of you who are newly joining us, I'm just going to give you an overview of the Invest Southwest initiative. So the Invest Southwest initiative was established to marshal public and private resources to spur economic development along 12 commercial corridors and 10 community areas in Chicago's South and West Side communities. And before I turn it over, I just want to go over some etiquette. So please mute yourself during presentations and when you're not speaking. Please state your name before speaking. Please use the Zoom Q&A functions for any questions outside of the designated Q&A period. Please, when speaking, raise your hand. There is a raise your hand function within Zoom. And then I just want to mention all questions are valid, and we ask that you respond with respect. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Claudette. And Claudette, you can just let me know when you want me to advance the slide.
So actually, it's Caroline Redden who's going to present, and then I will follow Caroline.
Okay, no problem.
Hi, can you hear me all right?
Yep.
Great. So you can move to the next slide. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Caroline Rendon with LISC Chicago, and I'm hopping on your call today to go over some data, as James said, and also introduce a longer conversation that we're going to have about the roundtables themselves. So to take a big picture view, James just gave an intro to what Invest Southwest is. And so a really critical part of Invest Southwest is these community roundtables. And since we've been at it for close to 2 years now, it seemed like a good point to sort of take a step back and reflect on what's going well about them and what we could improve, because the goal is really to ensure that roundtables are a valuable and accessible and effective forum for getting genuine engagement and input into community projects. So we developed this process that you can see on the slide here. I'm not going to go through this in great detail, but the first step was to
I think we lost.
and results of that. The full results will be available to you online afterwards, but we'll just give a high level overview. And then where we are right now, February 2022, is holding facilitated discussions in each neighborhood. So Claudette is here to sort of have this conversation about what's going well and what we can improve. So she will lead that portion. And then moving forward, we'll kind of continue to reevaluate how this is going and how we can really make some concrete improvements in the roundtables. Next slide, please. So again, just a quick overview of the survey. This data that I'm sharing now is, this covers all the Invest Southwest neighborhoods across the city. So we had about 100 responses across all 12 corridors. The most people who responded to the survey are neighborhood residents and property owners. So we were really able to get a good cross section of the folks who responded as representatives from the neighborhood. Next slide. And then gathering feedback. This slide and the one that follows are interesting to me. This is basically, this shows the blue portion of that graph shows that about 3/4 of respondents agree that the roundtable is effective at providing feedback on projects. About half think it's somewhat effective, and a quarter think it's very effective. There's still a healthy portion of people who haven't felt that way, and so that's definitely something we want to pay attention to moving forward. Next slide. And then this is, I think this in comparison to the previous chart is interesting. This is showing that most of the stakeholders who participate in roundtables do not feel any more power to influence decision making than they did prior to participating in the roundtables. The blue wedge is showing the people who do feel like they had a greater ability to influence decisions, but the gray and the yellow is folks who do not or who feel less ability. So I think this is an interesting comparison with the previous slide that says the roundtables are effective, but in both cases we can see that there's definitely some room to improve and to make these more democratic and engaging. Next slide. We also wanted to check in about who should facilitate. Maybe there's a way we can change the facilitation up to ensure that this forum reaches the broadest swath of the community possible. And most of our respondents landed on some combination of players to do this. It's obviously helpful to have the resources that the city brings, as well as the community voice that the corridor manager and other organizations represent. So that's what we see reflected here. Next slide. We also asked about meeting format. Since we know the pandemic has been unpredictable, it's kept us in an all virtual setting, and our responses showed that most people want to stay virtual for the most part, but it might be beneficial to have some in-person meetings, especially as we move into the warmer months. Next slide. So we asked also in this survey what people thought should be changed about the roundtables. And so we got a wide range of responses, but many of them on this theme of more transparency, more clarity about what the roundtables are doing, having agendas and schedules in advance so people can plan to attend and to voice their opinions. And then continuing to engage more and more people. Next slide. All right, so in a moment, I will turn it over to Claudette, but just want to recap the survey. The full results will be available after this meeting. I wanted to give those high level results just as an intro to this conversation. But the conversation is really about sort of your own perspectives on what has gone well and what can be improved on the roundtables, so that they can be, as I said before, a really genuine and effective forum for community engagement. So there's some open questions here. Claudette will guide us through this conversation. So I'll turn it over to you, Claudette.
Thank you, Caroline. And good afternoon, everyone. Happy New Year. I guess you could still say that. I haven't seen you since last year. So it's good to see you all. We have about 20 minutes, I think, for this segment, if that's correct. Ernest will let me know or flag me. And so what we want to do is get your initial reaction to what has been shared as to what strikes you about these results. So what's your initial reaction to what you've seen and heard? And you can use chat or open up your mic, unmute yourself rather. Do you need to see any of the slides again for us to back up a bit? Okay, so there's no initial reaction to that. Or Darnell.
Sorry, I had a call coming in. You know what, the one insight or that was shared that I did have an initial reaction to was the one around people thinking or whether or not they felt like they had more influence in terms of decision making around how investments, like how these investment decisions are, how they come about. So that was, yeah, I was wondering, how is this data going to be used to sort of address that? Because while it seems split, it actually seems a bit concerning that, 48% of folks that responded to this feel like, nothing's really changed. And 14% felt like that they actually felt less confident. So that's a little overwhelming. And from my understanding, the focus of these roundtables was to create the space where communities felt like they could have more influence in terms of community stakeholders have more influence in terms of like how these investment decisions come about. So I'm just curious about that, and I don't know if that's something that DPD is looking to consider or want to dig into a bit deeper, and what role can the roundtable play in helping to address that.
So you've actually gotten into that second question as to, why do people don't feel confident that the feedback they're given is incorporated into the decisions. And so, the purpose of this meeting is to get your feedback around that as to what are your thoughts. With that, my understanding is that DPD is using these results to better define, to make improvements or to make adjustments based on what the roundtable's input is, in addition to the survey that's here. If I've missed something, Caroline, let me know. But, why do you think people don't feel confident that their feedback is being incorporated into the decision? And Alderman Metz, I see your hand. But before you respond, Alderman, just a moment, let me get Darnell. I'm just saying I'm coming to you. Let me get Mr. Shields. You have additional thoughts around that?
Well, I think that, if you're asking me, I think that maybe those that responded where they feel like it's the same or less confident, maybe they feel like maybe they're just really being sought after for feedback and not necessarily given an opportunity to really lend to how some of these opportunities are crafted. Because, for example, I know to some degree, there's two plans that the city has been looking at in terms of Invest Southwest as it relates to Chicago Avenue, and that's the Soul City corridor plan framework and the quality of life plan. And I do know, well, I can't speak necessarily for the Soul City corridor plan and the leaders, you know, AAA, BNA, I know they have a lot of influence in terms of how some things may go about being crafted with that. But in terms of like the quality of life plan, I can honestly say there's not enough engagement from DPD with Austin Come Together, or even the leaders, the community leaders that actually lead the plan in terms of like some of these decisions or some of these things that are being crafted as it relates to Invest Southwest. And so they're only really being sought after to provide feedback after some things have been crafted. And so that's just my sense of it. Like, if there's more opportunity for at least the groups that, you know, involved in the plans that they say that they really have used to influence what they've crafted, that there's some space for them to actually lend to, you know, these decisions and the things that are actually being presented for a community to provide feedback on, maybe beforehand. I think that might, you know, be advantageous, and I think that maybe, you know, satisfy some of the folks that maybe responded, may have been included, may have been some of the respondents that said they were less confident or about the same.
So having the opportunity to give input on the front end rather than reaction to what's being presented. Okay, Alderman Mitz, Alderwoman Mitz.
Thank you very much. And hello, everyone. I kind of like the way Darnell was going with this. I was under the impression that the roundtable were a tool that we were using to continue work doing covert. Am I hearing now that this is the way we're going to be collaborating even throughout the summer months for discussions? And is there any consideration of any in-person collaboration and people being face-to-face and conversating should be somewhere in this plan? I don't think we need to just get away from altogether talking with our stakeholders and community folks by way of the roundtables.
So Alderwoman, let me be sure that I'm clear as to what you're saying. Are you talking about the meeting format, whether or not it's virtual or in person or both?
Is that the way it's going to be? I'm speaking of in general in the future. Are we looking to use this platform as a way of connecting feedback for Invest Southwest?
So the survey results, and if you could go to that slide, the survey results said that most of the respondents, the meeting format would be mostly virtual. And then as you can see there, half, you had it up just a second right here, half in person and half virtual. So I do believe that there is consideration to, now that the summer months, I think Mr. Bellamy mentioned that now that the summer months are approaching us, that hopefully some of the meetings could be in person. So a combination.
Okay, very good.
Thank you. Other thoughts around the confidence level of responses to how the roundtable is a good forum, but feeling that you lack confidence in the decisions that are being made?
Hi, good morning. This is Morris Reed from Westside Health Authority.
Good morning.
Good morning. I just really wanted to drive home Darnell's point, because there was a quality of life plan there was Soul City corridor plans. But it seems like these roundtables created different alternatives to plans that were vetted and planned over years and years of community tables without the city. It seems like if the city would have provided this roundtable for an opportunity to see what role can the city play to integrate themselves more and support more the quality of life plan, the Soul City corridor plan, plans by other stakeholders. And so it could have been a good fit where the entire community and the entire city could have seen the landscape of the community as far as what plans are actively being engaged now. And it seems like part of the confidence level that's low is that it seems like people were trying to tell the city, this is what's going on. And the city tried to make it into a box and tried to simplify it into its own city Invest Southwest strategies rather than support the quality of life plan or the corridor plan more to the fullest and engage more community partners around what those investments look like, because people made a lot of investments, but those investments wasn't matched or supported by the city. And when the feedback was being provided, it seemed like the city went more into a more of a governmental, regulatory structure where the community feedback at the end of the day didn't hold any value because it was regulated. We didn't have the authority to make a city decision. That was left to DPD, that was left to the mayor's office. So our input was just a consideration more than valued, you know. Like if you ask me something, you say, oh, I'll consider it. That's one thing. But if you ask me something and say, oh, that's a good idea, let's see how we can work together, I think those numbers would improve. And so I just wanted to add that extra input.
Thank you for more engagement from the community partners. We want to move on. There's a couple of other questions that we want to try to get you to respond to. And that is, what would make this forum more effective for the community engagement? How can this be more effective?
Can Grady speak now?
Yes.
I have to kind of agree with Darnell and Mr. Reed in terms of it seems like it's a top-down approach to me. So how do we, and they mentioned the quality of life plan, a lot of stuff has already been done. So how do we incorporate that stuff into the Invest Southwest? I mean, the work has already been done. So now, are we going to take this bottoms up approach, or are we going to stay the top down? And who's actually making these decisions at the city? Is it the mayor's office or is it DPD?
Okay. Thank you for that. We'll allow the city to respond to that at some point. They will, but so noted as to the bottom up approach rather than the top down approach. And so that is in response to how this could be more effective. Who should facilitate the roundtables? And how often should you meet? Any thoughts?
Is that a question?
Yes.
So I would say that this, I'm sorry, this is Dr. Lockhart. I would say the corridor manager.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Lockhart.
Yes.
Other thoughts?
Yeah, this is Malcolm. So originally that was the case when I think the direction we were going originally when Ethan Lassiter and myself were working together. It started off in the right direction, but when Ethan transitioned, and it just kind of became a catch-all for everything, where people could call Ethan before and find out and have a direct line to the city, and or call me and have a direct line in the community, and we both could talk together and then talk to the community. That was a good way of doing it. Since he's left, there hasn't been that level of I would say, for lack of a better term, commitment from the city to have that level of access in planning the way we had it before.
Thank you, Mr. Crawford.
Hi, this is Crystal Dyer. I raised my hand. Can I say something?
Sure.
Okay, I'm in the corridor also, and I can say before the city roundtable situation opened, now my business is on the 5900 block. We were never informed of any meetings. And when I found out about these meetings, gosh, I think they had already been having them a year or two, you know, and I guess this is a little pre-COVID, then COVID came, but with the city coming in, because, you know, there's you know, like two different things going on here. You know, we have AAA BNA that has members and they inform their members, but the information wasn't getting to all the businesses that weren't members of AAA BNA at that point. So I looked at it as an advantage that, you know, that the city stepped in, and, you know, so then that helped all the business owners in you know, Chicago Avenue and wherever to be able to, you know, get access to this information. And so, you know, if anything, you know, what I think is, I think that the city should still be involved to make sure that it's fair and equitable for all the business owners. You know, it's just not Chicago Avenue businesses in the Invest Southwest plan, number one, and or the quality of life plan. So, you know, or any other plan. So, you know, to make it fair that all business owners can participate and know about these sessions and everything, you know, there still has to be a, you know, collaboration with the city being on the meetings also. That's what I feel.
Thank
So
you.
let me
My hand, Dr. Lockhart, my hand is up, Brother Malcolm. My hand is up. My hand is up.
Just a moment, please. Just a moment. And sorry that we have to cut the conversation short based on the agenda that is set. The purpose of this piece was to give you the results in aggregate from all of the communities and for the city to hear additional comments, your thoughts around this. Let me state that this will continue in order to be able to get your feedback. And again, I apologize that we weren't able to get to everybody for additional comments, but I do have to turn it back over now to Ernest.
Sorry, this is James. I do want to give Dr. Lockhart an opportunity to speak before we move on. Just a couple of minutes. Go ahead, Dr. Lockhart.
Thank you so much for that. And I just wanted to just very quickly speak to I think that was I know her name, I'm so sorry, but I wanted to be clear on what I said about the corridor manager, not the corridor manager in charge of everything, but more so the person that's helping coordinating the meetings. Because when I started with the Invest Southwest piece, even though AAA had their own business down the street, I wasn't informed through AAA. It's communicating through the community. Brother Morris Reed, he brought my name in. And even though we own several properties on Chicago Avenue, I wasn't included in the Invest Southwest piece as well. It's just about keeping, updating people who are part of the community. If you are a stakeholder and just us telling others about it, that would be the way. Because again, no one person is kind of responsible. We all as stakeholders have to let each other know what's going on. The city may not know all of the stakeholders within the community, but if you know you're a stakeholder in the community and you hear information, just share that information along the way. Because again, it wasn't directly shared with me, but thankful that Brother Morris Reed, and I'll call him my brother, brought us into the meeting and informed us about it. So thankfully, that's how we became involved in the Invest Southwest piece, just by another stakeholder telling another stakeholder, telling another person. Word of mouth is one of the biggest advertisements we can have. So thank you for that.
No problem. Okay, we're gonna move on. CDOT is gonna provide an update on the Chicago Avenue design, and I think I'm turning it over to Eli. Is that right?
Yep, I'm gonna
Okay.
share my screen right now.
Okay, I'll stop sharing.
And is everyone able to see my screen?
Yep.
Great. And Luca or Wade, did you want to kick us off?
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. My name's Wade Van Nortwick. I'm the project manager for the Invest Southwest Austin Chicago Avenue corridor improvements. And I'd like to introduce Leslie Roth, who will be discussing the design family that will be proposed for the corridor. So Leslie.
Thanks, Wade. My name is Leslie Roth. I'm a principal with the Lamar Johnson Collaborative. We are working as a part of the consultant team with CDOT to create a design for Chicago Avenue. First, we'll take a look at the project schedule, bring you up to date on where we are, what we've accomplished, and then we'd like to share some preliminary design families for you to share your input on. The design process for this project, as most of you know, started this past spring, where we first started to gain an understanding of what the past plans and documents had to offer. Folks mentioned the quality of life plan, the Soul City corridor plan. This is where we started our design process, is referring to those documents. This past August, we had our first public meeting, and the focus was on defining the project needs. Today, we're sharing with you at this roundtable right before our second public meeting, which will be next month. In the spring of 2022, we'll present our third and at the third public meeting where we'll share a preferred concept for Chicago Avenue. This engagement process is key for informing the design development stage. At the conclusion of this year, the focus will then shift towards producing the final design plans and specifications that will eventually be bid on by contractors. This construction process, as you can see on this slide regarding project phasing, is then anticipated to begin in late fall of 2022 and extend through 2024. We wanted to point out that given the length of the corridor, that this process and its construction will be in several phases. The construction phasing will progress from east to west, and this was decided based on the overall existing infrastructure condition. So we can go on to, the public meeting recap. So on our last public meeting took place on August 24th. Similarly to this one, we used an online platform via webinar on Zoom. The presentation that we gave at that workshop provided an explanation of the various streetscape components, highlighted community feedback, and also gave an overview of the existing conditions of the corridor. There were 24 people who logged on to that meeting. We did get quite a bit of feedback from public meeting one. As you can see, there was a strong preference for the design of the corridor to be more modern and playful. Some of the images that you see on the right hand of the screen will give you a sense of how we interpreted those comments. During public meeting one, we also used Mentimeter live polling during that meeting. We're going to use that tool today with you all during the roundtable so you can share your input with us on the design families. There was also a survey that was available after the meeting to capture thoughts and opinions that were unable to be addressed during the meeting. In summary, we heard that there was a strong desire for more community outreach to take place, especially with businesses along the Chicago Avenue corridor. Participants generally felt and agreed that sidewalks needed to be wider and more comfortable. We also heard that parking was very important, especially to businesses and their success, both those that were already established as well as attracting new businesses. The need for on-street bike lanes was presented, and while some understood the need, others wanted to hear more details on the overall benefits and safety components. And lastly, we looked at decorative features and neighborhood identity components to build off previous studies, including definition of the Soul City corridor theme. We want to highlight here also that there is a summary of that meeting as well as the post-meeting survey that are available on the project website. And we'll give you, you can see the address at the bottom of this website. We also had several small group conversations. We wanted to reach out to community members that we heard wanted to be involved from the importance of community outreach. So we created 3 small group discussions that were held with key community stakeholders. The conversations were centered on gaining a deeper level of understanding of stakeholder preferences, specific to the bulleted list that you see on the screen here. Safe mobility was also a conversation topic, as well as typical street sections, how the road would change with the new design concepts, streetscape improvements, and branding and character. We saw a lot of good feedback from these groups, and this is what was found. These conversations were foundational to us developing the initial concepts that we'll share with you today. As you can see from the summary on the slide, people are encouraged by improvements like lights, landscaping, trees, and wider sidewalks, beautification elements. Most groups noted also that safety was an important priority, both pedestrian safety and also at intersections. There was also an idea of how we could create design elements to increase foot traffic as well as traffic to new and future businesses. Every group wanted to see Austin's identity celebrated and displayed. So we'll show you the study area here. This slide really talks about the different gateways and community identifiers that will be a part of the overall corridor design. Austin, as all of you know, is the largest community area in Chicago geographically, and it is growing in its population. The identity of the Soul City corridor is one that we prioritized in the creation of design elements. In collaboration with CDOT, our engineering lead on this project, Civil Tech, Territory, not-for-profit youth engagement, and other community stakeholders, as well as our AltSpace, our artist partner, we created a direction for the Soul City identifiers and gateways. These gateways and banners will be used to share that identity, and the design elements incorporated in them will be vibrant and capture the culture and pride of the Austin community area. Next slide, please. We also heard that the community wanted to be represented with the words that you see defined in this word cloud. Some of those are African-American, vibrant, representation, diversity, Black culture, heritage, and inclusion. We also on the slide share with you some of the quotes that we collected during the small group discussions and public workshop. Next slide, please. As I mentioned, the team reviewed carefully the quality of life plan and the Soul City corridor design documents and framework. This was where our design, we wanted to be rooted in an understanding of what the documents that were accepted and approved by community came from and build our design concepts from that place. The bullets that you see on the screen really get to some key themes that we pulled out of these documents that formed a basis for design concepts. During our small group conversations and community outreach, we started to notice that there were 3 common themes about how communities spoke about themselves, what they thought was important about their community, and how they wanted the community to be represented. All 3 small groups made statements about these similar values. There was a very strong desire to reflect and share community history, legacy of the community, share the pride of cultural impact, and also create a better future for Austin residents, present and future. We took these core community values and created themes, or what we're calling families, of community identifiers and gateways to brand the Soul City corridor. Theme 1 draws on a correlation with the acacia tree, family and accessibility, also legacy within the community. The acacia tree is known in Africa for having deep roots and producing seeds. In the same spirit, Austin is rooted in family. The Great Migration has grown to over, the Great Migration had a huge impact on the community area of Austin and has increased the population of Austin for decades. There are several businesses and institutions that have been in the community for a really long time. And we wanted, and as well as families that are multi-generational and have continued to reside in Austin decade after decade. In an effort to honor the families and businesses that have been in Austin, that created its identity and continue to be successful, theme 1 will be rooted in place. For theme 2, music has always been a catalyst for self-expression and also a way to be innovative and celebrate Black joy. It's transcended the African-American community and become the very fabric of contemporary music. As a result of this music, we know that Austin has a deep and embedded history in that music. There's a number of Chicago-based artists that are from Austin that we wanted to celebrate with the second theme. The gateways and identifiers are have a rhythm, they're melodic in design, and are created with materials that have unique connection points. For theme 3, we wanted to make sure that we honored both our civil rights past as well as a vibrant future in the Austin community. The design elements in this theme are rooted in activism as well as resistance. The gateways are strong, they're bold, and they embody the essence of a community moving forward. So now we'll go ahead and talk you through the 3 families and the gateways and identifiers. This view shows the family of community identifiers for the rooted in place theme, including gateway, light pole identifiers, and pavers. We wanted to show you how these elements can work together to express the community identity through streetscape improvements. The paving patterns take inspiration from tree roots, anchoring itself into the community. The gateway represents the solid tree trunk, branching out and wide and stretching across Chicago Avenue. Later in the presentation, we'll ask you to vote for your favorite overall family of elements. The second family is the Chicago rhythm. This view shows all of those elements that are included in this theme. Further building on a musical theme, this concept takes inspiration from an equalizer and the jazz rhythm and music to create a family of elements that are exciting, vibrant, have music, musical elements, and create rhythm and movement on the street. And lastly, the third family is the Bright Futures theme. These elements build on an architectural geometry and shapes that create beacons to draw attention to the area and share its culture and history. So on this slide, we've separated out the community identifiers in the rooted in place theme. You can see the gateways, banners, paving patterns, and light pole banners that would be a part of this family of elements. In the second theme, the second family, Chicago rhythm, similarly, you can see each one of these elements and how the rhythmic components and elements create movement along the street. The third family shows this is the bright future, and you can see how some of the elements and geometries coordinate between the gateways, paving, and banners. Okay, so now we're going to give you a chance to vote using your computer or your phone. You can pick up your mobile device. You're going to go to menti.com. That's www.menti.com. And you'll use the code at the top of the screen, and I'll read it to you. Once you go to that website, the code is 62962564. So we'll give you a minute to go ahead and go to menti.com, and you'll enter the code 62962564. And the image on your screen will appear, and you'll be able to vote on which of the 3 themes you prefer. And we'll give you a second to do that. And remember, even if you voted for, we're voting for families now. If you like some elements from one family and other elements from another family, there will be an opportunity to combine them. For this particular exercise, we'd like to have a sense of which of these is preferred.
Could you give that code one more time?
Sure. The code is 62962564. And if you would prefer not to vote or you don't like any of them, please provide your comments in the chat. We'll also give you an email address at the end of this presentation to share comments. Again, it's menti.com and the code is 62962564. Thank you, Luca. So we'll wait a couple minutes to see if we get some results for a preferred scheme. And just a quick tech check. Eli, are you seeing any results coming in here?
No, I think it's not updating right now.
Okay. Maybe we can just take a second to see if it updates. There we go. Thank you. Great. Thank you, Morris. So it looks like right now the preferred scheme is rhythm with rooted in place coming in second and the future focus scheme coming in third. Looks like we still have a few more votes coming in. Rooted in place is catching up, but rhythm is still the preferred scheme. And again, this is just a preliminary design. These are preliminary design ideas that will continue to be developed and refined. This is not what is going to be built. This is just to get a sense of a preference for design options. Okay, so let's go on to the second one. The next slide. We'd like to present to you some color schemes, color palettes for this. So again, the 3 color palettes are bold. This is the We Will Chicago color theme, earth tones, or Pan-African red, black, and green. And we'll quickly go through the Menti and then we'll wrap up the presentation. And again, you'll go to menti.com and then we can, it should be the same code, correct, Eli?
Correct. I think with the 2 slides got swapped around, so I'm gonna go back.
Okay, I know that we are running out of time right now for the presentation.
Hi, could you repeat that website one more time?
Sure,
'Cause I
it's
got out of-
Menti, it's menti.com. And the code is 62962564. It's also that information is in the chat.
Okay.
And
Showed up again.
this is not the last chance that you'll have to vote on these. We are also going to be showing these options in our second public meeting, which we hope you can all attend on March 1st at 6 p.m. And there is a registration in this presentation. We're happy to share this presentation with you as well. During public meeting 2, You'll have another opportunity to vote on these options, provide feedback, as well as rate the color schemes and each one of the elements with your preference of design. After public meeting 2, we'll refine the design options based on your feedback. And then we'll have a third public meeting to discuss the refined designs with you. There is an email from Wade that spoke at the beginning of this presentation if you have additional comments. And we do have a project website that is on this slide. We really hope to hear your comments. This is what your preference and your design ideas are what we're going to take. You know your community best, so we'd really love your input. Both on the website and hope that you'll attend the public workshop. This will be a virtual public workshop as well. So when you register, you will be able to connect via Zoom. We'll send you a Zoom link for that meeting. And thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to go ahead and share the screen. And we're going to turn it over to Malcolm for corridor manager updates. Malcolm, let me know if you can see this, that you can see the screen.
Yeah, I can see.
Okay.
All right, and so last year, 3 of the things that came out of our conversations, and we've heard it here today, 3 bullet points was parking, public safety, and design guidelines. So those were 3 things that really stuck out and people talked about with great need. And so we're going to start with public safety. One of the things is we're going to be working on public safety, and we're looking for those who are interested in that dreaded word committee to talk about public safety. And we have our business liaison on the call from the 15th district. As well as we'll have the deputy chief, Cato, and his team working on public safety in the corridor as we grow. And so next slide. And so what is public safety? A comprehensive plan for the Soul City business corridor. Keep going. And this is what we heard. Why is public safety important to Soul City? It helps to change the perception of the West Side, helps to attract new businesses and financial resources, builds a relationship with first responders, which will decrease the skepticism of the Austin community, and make consumers feel safe, as well as protect businesses. Next slide. Why is public safety important to Soul City? And it continues. You guys really need to see this graph here. We aren't doing as bad as we think we are on Chicago Avenue, and this helps us when we're bringing in people and we're talking about developing the corridor. That is not the OK Corral, and it's not just everybody's being shot and damaged and everything in the corridor. So keep going. Who should be involved with this? Property owners and business owners, first responders, our elected officials, and the residents. It was very important because we heard many who own businesses up and down the corridor and their concerns with break-ins. We had one situation where we had a gentleman who was breaking in, but he's since been caught. But it was an effort between the police department, the residents, and the business owners all worked together to apprehend the gentleman, and then the state's attorney coming in to really work to keep that individual off the streets, and now others coming in to help him so that he doesn't go back to drugs and crime. And so this is going to be extremely important as we move forward, and we're going to be talking with stakeholders and definitely our business owners, because as we're asking them to take down the bars, to allow people to see in your businesses, they need to know that these are safe spaces and that they feel comfortable with opening businesses on Chicago Avenue, knowing that the police department, the city, and the business owners are all working together to have a safe space on Chicago Avenue. I believe that's the last slide. Oh, no, it's not. Our targeted area is Chicago Avenue from Austin to Cicero, and then looking at those alleys and then exit points, because we know that when we have consistency of businesses, it adds to public safety, because you can't dip off into parking lots and dip off into vacant lots and those kind of things, but having consistency across the corridor. So those exit points are watched. So we have a whole plan that we're working on with the city of Chicago, with the police department. And we just want you to know that people are hearing. So when the business owners are talking about public safety, I'm listening and I'm passing the word on to the city, and the city has passed the word on to the police department. And we all are going to work together to come up with this comprehensive plan along the corridor. I believe that's it. Oh, how to implement the public safety, create a collective strategy. But in order to do so, you need everyone's involvement to implement the safety of Soul City. And I would just like to say thank you. You guys will meet Dimitri Shelton, who has come on and is really helping. He comes from Alcorn State. He's back here in Chicago. He helped put that slide together, and he's going to be working along the corridor as well.
Thank you, Malcolm. So we have 5 minutes left. Are there any questions in the remaining few minutes we have? 1 or 2? Okay, hearing none, I just want to thank everyone for their participation. Our next roundtable will be March the 18th, and I hope that you all will take the opportunity to join us. All right, I think that's it. Thank you all.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Right.